Yo, what is up? This is my review of the Bisonte C45. Now, usually I do a kind of like a reaction video where I take this out and show you my first game or my second game in the tank, but not today, not in this tank. Why? Because this tank totally kicked my ass. This tank really tested my patience. This tank really made me rethink how I do this video. I had to relearn how to play heavy tanks again because I did very poorly in this tank. In fact, I had 5 games with complete 0 damage and I did really poorly. Now in this tank I am running vents in the primary slot, improved rotation mechanics and vertical stabilizers. That's because the gun is pretty shitty in my opinion. Anyway, there are other equipment combinations that you can use. Some of the popular ones that I know of are replacing the vents with improved hardening. Improved hardening seems to be like quite popular with heavy tanks nowadays because it increases the durability of the tank, makes it a little bit more difficult to kill, and it's quite popular that way, I guess. The other equipment that is really popular with this tank is the optics instead of the vents. So running optics, improve rotation mechanics and vertical stabilizer, you still get the kind of better gun performance which is very much needed in a tank like this, but it also helps you to spot your enemies for yourself. And one of the more popular, these are the 3 anyway, most popular equipment choices. I suppose I can't judge on how you pick your equipment, but pick equipment that you feel is going to match your playstyle. If you want to be aggressive up front, or the one you feel like you need the durability more than anything else, then go ahead, by all means, pick the hardening, improved hardening for yourself. If you feel like you need this gun to perform a little bit better because it is a pile of shit, then go ahead and run with the vents, which is what I am doing right now in this game. Just full disclosure, I did switch out to optics later on. I did decide to run optics, IRM and vertical stabilizers in the end because I feel like the optics help me spot out some enemies that I can't normally see. Because if you don't have optics on, if you look at the spotting circle on my minimap, you can see my green circle is not at maximum view range, 445 meters. In fact, it's something like 430 something meters, so I don't have maximum view range. And if you're a light tank with incredible camo or a medium tank with incredible camo, you can basically be invisible from me. Now in this game we end up winning, but it had nothing to do with me. I did not do any of the reset. In fact, I can't even go forward because if I did, that Burrasco would be shooting me all over the place. And this is one of my earliest games in this tank. I felt like I was struggling to perform in this tank, struggling to get the kind of performance that I was expecting as as a guy that is quite experienced in this game, been doing this for a long time. I thought I got this tank review game like wrapped up, but like I said, I tried to play this game the best I can, but I could not do well in this tank for some reason, and I ended up spending a lot more time playing this tank trying to get good with this tank. And that is kudos to Wargaming for making a tank that wasn't overpowered, that wasn't making it too easy for me. So I have to take my hats off to Wargaming for creating kind of like I wouldn't say it's a completely balanced tank, because it is a pretty strong tank. The players that are really good in heavy tanks, they tend to do really well with a tank like this, because not only are they good in heavy tanks, now you give them auto reloading mechanic, the capability or the opportunity to basically finish off their opponents with one clip. This makes these players really excel in tanks like this. Now, I'm not going to twist myself into a pretzel trying to explain to you how the auto reloading mechanic works. It works just like a projectile, but this auto reloading has a little bit of a bonus. It is a reloading auto reloader, or whatever you want to call it, but basically when the gun is reloading and you see the countdown timer on the left of the what is that shell thing showing the reload thing, as soon as the parentheses flashes and shows up and you fire your gun during that period, your next shell is going to be reloaded with a 4 or 5 second bonus. So basically you will cut down your next shell's reload time if you fired within the time that the parentheses thing shows up on your reload. Now, a good thing for you to remember is when you're playing this tank, you shouldn't be focusing on that new auto reloading mechanic, because if you do, you are going to pay less attention on the game. If you're going to be thinking about how you want to maximize your reload, that is when you're going to lose sight of the game and maybe do poorly in terms of performance, just like I did. Maybe that's what happened to me, because I was trying to figure out how to maximize my DPM. I actually forgot how to win the game and how to play the game. Now, as soon as I stopped paying attention to how long it takes to reload, how I can maximize the auto reloading mechanic, as soon as I stop paying attention to that, I immediately start doing better in the games, because I just played this like a regular heavy tank with an auto reloader. I didn't think about the mechanics and how to maximize my reload time and blah blah blah, and then I immediately started doing better. Now this tank, the armor profile is really good, but there are some weak spots, and most notably the weak spot is on the forehead of the turret. The top of the turret has a couple of weak spots just above the shield. If you shoot there, even with standard AP shells in tier 8s, you can probably penetrate that. And I realized this when I started taking damage frontally, because I thought this tank was like, you know, super armored tank. There was no weak points in the front, there was no weak positions in the front, but I realized I was taking damage and people were shooting me right up at the top of my forehead, and I realized that that was the weak spot of this tank. Also, one of the tricks in this tank is instead of firing premium shells all the time, you are most likely going to be firing the standard shells. And because the standard shells have 1155 standard meters per second, the velocity of the standard shells are a lot better than the premium shells. Premium shells are heat shells. Yes, they have 270 penetration, but the velocity is only 800 meters per second. Now in this game, I'm platooned with Mr. High-End here, and we are actually riding with him, and he's going to show us exactly how to play this tank for a maximum damage. And this is a real good example of how to play this tank effectively, instead of how I usually do it. I try to be super hyper aggressive, being out in the front, and then run out of shells waiting for a long reload and getting myself killed for no reason. When you play heavy tanks, you need to exercise patience. You need to time your shells out, when you want to play it as a single shot, when do you want to play it as a auto loader and fire off as many shells as you can. And now he is, High-End is running out of shells. He needs to back up and reload, and he is calling for help, and immediately I turn around and come back to support him. What he's going to do here is reload to 3 shells and then rush this Chrysler K and shoot him in the sides, and that's exactly what he's done. He's taken a hit here and immediately tries to flank him and shoots him on the side. Unfortunately, the Chrysler K has got his sights on me. Now, I made a mistake there. Instead of trying to back up, when I realized the Chrysler K was going to aim at me, what I should have done is just driven forward and maybe move to my right and away from the Chrysler K's gun. Maybe I would have survived and lived longer and do a little bit more damage. But yeah, this is the Bisonte C45. It took me some time to get used to this tank, but I did get it there in the end. I did figure out how to play this tank now. I am increasing my damage output per game right now. Initially, I was doing really poorly with this tank, but I'm glad to say that I've figured it out. Maybe not as good as Mr. High-End here, but I am figuring it out, and I'm glad I didn't write off this tank and immediately trash this tank after playing it a couple of times. I held off my reaction video, so I did not do a reaction video on this tank. You know, did not show you my first replay and tell you that, oh, this tank is completely bad, because I knew this tank wasn't bad. I knew other people are doing actually pretty decent, doing pretty well in this tank. So I knew that if I were to say, or if I were to show you my first replay and then I did poorly and then I would trash this tank, I knew it wouldn't have been fair on this tank. So I decided to forego the reaction video and try to do a longer review on this tank, playing this tank over the course of the week, seeing myself improve, learning how the mechanics work, and basically give a more give a fairer view of this tank. That's what I would say. But anyway, I figured out that this tank is actually balanced, or maybe tipping on the strong side. I do notice that the good players will always do well on any tank you give them, especially in a tank that has a bit of armor, has an auto reloading mechanic, can clip you out for you know, massive amount of damage when they fire 3 shells at you. So yeah, I do enjoy this tank. I'm gonna play it a bit more just to, you know, make up for the bad games that I had early on when I started playing this tank. But you can see our friend here already 3,475 damage. He's managed to block 1,360 in this tank. I think as this tank gets a stronger foothold in this game, as more players get used to this tank, playing either with this tank or playing against this tank, a lot more people are going to figure out its weak points. Like I mentioned, on its forehead, if you shoot at the forehead, you can do a bit of damage into it. So let's see how this tank develops over the next couple of months. There are a lot of new tanks being released. There's this tank, there is the GSOR. Recently we had the 274A. So there's been a flurry of new tanks released. So it's gonna take maybe a month or two before this settles down and people figure out either how to overcome this tank or how to take full advantage in this tank and getting the best out of this tank, I would say. But there we go. This was the game in Kharkov, and this is high-end, doing 4,309 damage, over 1,360 blocked, and 1,238 assisted damage, a whopping 209,000 credits. This is with platoon bonus and some missions that he did completed. 209,000 credits payout. That's a pretty good payout for a high game as well. I hope you enjoyed my review of this tank, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.